You think your decisions are yours. You think you're in control of your life, your choices, your relationships, your boundaries. But what if I told you that right now? As you're reading this, you're being guided by invisible forces, operated by people who understand your psychological weaknesses better than you do yourself. Alex believed they were autonomous, believed every yes they said was their choice, every favor they did was voluntary, every boundary they didn't set was just them being understanding. But then came the moment of recognition. It started small. A friend asking for help again, and Alex opened their mouth to say yes. Something inside whispered, "Wait, why do I always say yes? Why does no feel impossible? Why do I feel guilty before even considering my own needs?" And in that moment, Alex saw it, the invisible strings attached to their limbs, strings pulled by others' expectations, childhood, conditioning, by fear of disappointing people, by the desperate need to be seen as good and kind, and understanding the strings had always been there. Alex just hadn't noticed. Because when you're a puppet, you don't feel the strings, you just feel like you're dancing and you think the dance is yours. But it's not, you're performing in someone else's play, following someone else's script, playing a role you never auditioned for. And the worst part, the puppet master doesn't need to hide, because you don't even know you should be looking for them. Manipulation isn't obvious anymore. It's not villains twirling mustaches. It's the friend who sighs when you have plans, the partner who says "I'm fine" in a tone that means you're in trouble, the parent who says "after all I've done for you," the colleague who makes you feel selfish for having boundaries, and you the strings attached. You keep dancing, keep performing, keep sacrificing yourself and calling it choice. Manipulators don't announce themselves. They don't wear signs. They study you like a map, finding your emotional fault lines, your psychological weak points, the places where you're most vulnerable, and they press exactly there. Alex's friend, Sarah, was a master. She never asked directly. She hinted, "I'm so overwhelmed. Nobody understands." And Alex would rush to help. Not because Sarah asked, but because Sarah created a scenario where not helping would make Alex the villain, the guilt manipulator. Alex's partner, Jordan, used different tactics. "I just think if you really loved me, you'd want to spend more time with me." The love weaponizer, making Alex's boundaries evidence of insufficient affection. Alex's mother used the oldest trick: "I sacrificed everything for you, and this is how you treat me." The debt collector, presenting parenthood as a transaction requiring eternal repayment. These aren't random behaviors. They're strategies, and they work because they target what you haven't healed: your need for approval, your fear of abandonment, your guilt about prioritizing yourself, your belief that love must be earned through sacrifice. The manipulator doesn't need to know psychology formally. They learned through trial and error. What works on you, they've noticed that guilt makes you compliant, that fear makes you accommodating, that your need to be seen as good makes you controllable. And once they've mapped your weaknesses, they don't need force. They just need to activate the right trigger. You do the rest. You manipulate yourself through your own unexamined fears and unmet needs. The manipulator just provides the spark, you provide the gasoline, and Machiavelli understood this 500 years ago. He wrote that the wise ruler learns not what people should do, but what they actually do not. They claim to value, but what they actually respond to, not their stated principles, but their revealed vulnerabilities. And those who understand this don't need to shout or threaten. They just need to know which buttons to push. And you haven't even labeled your buttons, much less protected. You're not manipulated because you're weak. You're manipulated because you're human. Because everyone has psychological gaps. Spaces where childhood wounds meet adult insecurities, where unmet needs create desperate hunger, where fear of specific outcomes makes you controllable. Alex's weak point was approval from an early age. Alex learned that love was conditional, was earned through performance, was withdrawn as punishment. So Alex became a people pleaser, chronic accommodator, perpetual peacekeeper, not because they wanted to be, but because the alternative, disapproval, rejection, abandonment, felt like death. And manipulators smell this. They sense whose love came with conditions, whose worth was tied to usefulness, whose identity is built on being needed, and they offer crumbs of approval in exchange for everything you have. Your time, your energy, your boundaries, your self-respect, and you take deal. Because the crumbs feel like feast when you've been starving your whole life. Some people's weak point is guilt. They were taught that thinking of themselves is selfish, that having needs is burden, that saying no is cruelty. So they apologize for existing, carry responsibility for others' emotions, sacrifice themselves at the altar of being good, and manipulators weaponize this goodness. Turn your virtue into your vulnerability. Make your compassion the rope that binds you. Others' weak point is fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of the void that comes when connections end. They cling to any relationship, even toxic ones. Even ones that harm them, because the fear of emptiness is stronger than the pain of staying. And manipulators offer false security. Give you just enough connection to keep you hooked, just enough attention to prevent you from leaving, just enough to... You think this is as good as it gets. All these weak points have origins. They're not character flaws. They're adaptations, survival strategies, from times when you actually were powerless, when you actually did need approval to stay safe, when abandonment actually was a threat. But those times are over. You're not that child anymore. You have power now. Agency, choice. But you're still operating from old programming, still responding to outdated threats, still protecting yourself from dangers that no longer exist. And until you update your psychological software, you'll keep running the same vulnerable code that manipulators exploit. Alex's awakening came on an ordinary Tuesday. Sarah called with another crisis. Could Alex cancel their plans to help? Jordan made a passing comment about Alex spending too much time on their hobbies. Alex's mother sent a passive-aggressive text about how long it had been since they visited, and for the first time, instead of immediately accommodating, immediately feeling guilty, immediately rearranging their life, Alex paused, and in that pause, saw the pattern. This wasn't a series of isolated requests. It was a coordinated assault on Alex's boundaries. Each person in their life had learned that Alex would sacrifice themselves, that no was not really an option, that guilt and obligation were reliable levers of control, and Alex had trained them, had taught each person through years of accommodating exactly how to manipulate them. And the recognition was devastating, because it meant every relationship Alex thought was based on love might actually be based on utility. Every connection Alex cherished might be transactional. Every person Alex trusted might be using them. But it also meant something else. It meant the power to change was in Alex's hands. Not through changing others, through changing their own responses, through updating their programming, through protecting their weak points, through becoming unpredictable. To those who'd learned to predict them, this is what Machiavelli would call awakening. The moment you stop seeing the world as you wish it were, and start see it as it actually is. The moment you stop believing everyone has good intentions and start evaluating people by their actions, not their words. The moment you realize that in relationships there is no neutrality, only dynamics of mutual respect or dynamics of control, and you're in one or the other. You acknowledge it or not. Alex made a decision that Tuesday, said no to Sarah. Without guilt, without explanation, just no. Didn't respond to Jordan's manipulation with defensive justification, just calm acknowledgement. And changed nothing, sent a brief response to Mother's text with accommodating. The implied demand, and each no felt like ripping off chains that had been invisible until that moment. Emotional immunity isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming conscious. It's about recognizing manipulation tactics in real time and choosing not to engage, choosing not to take the bait, choosing to observe rather than immediately react. Alex started training like an athlete, learning new skills. First skill, pattern recognition. When Sarah said, "I'm so overwhelmed, Alex now heard I'm about to ask you to sacrifice your time," and instead of rushing to help, Alex paused, observed the pattern, and chose their response consciously, not reactively. Second skill, strategic detachment. This doesn't mean caring. It means not letting emotions override judgment. When Jordan said, "If you loved me, you'd," Alex now recognized emotional blackmail, and instead of defending their love, Alex simply didn't engage with the false premise. Third skill, comfortable with discomfort. Manipulators rely on your discomfort with tension, with disappointed people, with conflict. So they create those feelings, knowing you'll cave to relieve them. Alex practiced sitting with discomfort, letting others be disappointed, letting silence exist, letting tension remain unresolved, and discovering that nothing catastrophic happened. Fourth skill, unpredictability. Manipulators work with predictability. They know if they cry, you'll comfort. If they guilt, you'll comply. If they push, you'll give. So Alex became unpredictable, said no when yes was expected, disappeared when pursuit was expected, stayed silent when explanation was expected, and watched manipulators short circuit when their strategy stopped working. Fifth skill, solid identity. The more you know who you are, the less others can tell you who you should be. Alex started daily practice, writing down their actual values, their real boundaries, their genuine feelings separate from others' expectations, and over time built internal compass that no external manipulation could override. This isn't overnight transformation, it's daily practice, resisting urgency to please, standing firm despite discomfort, remembering that you owe no one your mental peace or your self-betrayal. Machiavelli wrote that fortresses are less important than not being hated by the people, but in personal life, the fortress you need is internal. His boundaries is self-knowledge. It is the ability to see manipulation coming and step aside calmly, without anger, without explanation, without guilt, just clear calm. The hardest manipulation to identify is the one wrapped in affection, delivered by someone you love, executed by someone who claims to care, when the manipulator is your parent, your partner, your closest friend. The recognition is agony, because it means the relationship you treasured might be toxic, love you believed in might be control, the person you trusted might be using you. Alex faced this with Jordan, their partner of 3 years, who said all the right things. "I love you. I need you. I can't live without you," but whose actions told different story. Jordan isolated Alex from friends, became cold. When Alex had independent plans, required constant reassurance that became exhausting to provide, made Alex responsible for Jordan's emotional stability. And Alex had called this love, had called this being needed, had called this intensity of connection. But it was enmeshment, it was codependency, it was control disguised as intimacy, and recognizing this meant admitting the relationship. Alex had invested years in the future. They'd planned together the identity they'd built. As Jordan's partner, all of it was built on unstable ground, on manipulation, not mutual respect, on Alex's self-abandonment, genuine connection. And this recognition forces an impossible question. Do you stay and try to fix it? Or do you leave and rebuild yourself? Because you can't do both. You can't maintain a relationship built on your compliance while developing boundaries. You can't stay enmeshed while becoming autonomous. You can't keep feeding dynamic that requires your smallness while growing into your fullness. Something has to break, either the relationship or your freedom. And choosing freedom, choosing yourself, choosing to leave or radically transform the dynamic feels like betrayal, feels like cruelty, feels like you're the bad one. Because manipulators have trained you to believe that your boundaries are attacks, that your self-preservation is selfishness, that choosing yourself is abandoning them. But Machiavelli understood sometimes the most strategic move is withdrawal. Not because you hate them, but because staying costs you yourself. And no relationship is worth that price. Not parent, not partner, not friend. Nobody gets to ask you to disappear so they can feel secure. The word that changes everything is no, not angry, no, not defensive, no, not guilty. No, just calm, firm, complete. No, Alex learned this slowly, painfully. When Sarah called with another crisis, Alex said, "I can't help with this." When Jordan implied Alex's boundaries meant lack of love, Alex said, "That's not true," and didn't elaborate. When Mother deployed guilt about family obligations, Alex said, "I understand you're disappointed, but this is my decision." And each no was a reclamation, an act of self-respect, a declaration that Alex's time, energy, and mental peace were not up for negotiation, not available for manipulation, not currency to be traded for approval. But here's what nobody tells you about setting boundaries. People will test them. Manipulators especially will push harder. Initially, because they can feel the power dynamic shifting, can sense they're losing control, can see that old strategies aren't working, so they escalate. They cry harder, guilt, harder, threaten, louder. They punish your boundaries with coldness, with anger, with withdrawal, because they're hoping you'll cave, hoping the discomfort of their reaction will send you back to compliant self. And this is the crucial moment, the moment that determines everything. Because if you maintain the boundary, despite the reaction, despite the test, despite the discomfort, you've changed the relationship permanently. You've established that your no means no, that boundaries aren't negotiable, that their manipulation doesn't work anymore. But if you cave, you apologize and accommodate. If you let their reaction control you, you've taught them that boundaries are performative, that enough pressure will make you yield, that manipulation still works. It just needs to be more intense. So the first few no's are the most important. They're the boundary-setting battles, and you must win them. Not for them, but for you, because every maintained boundary strengthens your sovereignty. Every upheld no reinforces that you are not controllable. Every time you choose yourself despite others' disappointment, you prove to yourself that you can survive their disapproval. And that's when real freedom begins. When others' reactions no longer determine your choices. When disapproval no longer feels like death. When you'd rather be respected for your boundaries than liked for your compliance. Machiavelli wrote, "Better to be feared than loved." If you can't be both in personal life This translates to better to be respected for your boundaries than loved for your compliance. Because love that requires your self-abandonment isn't love, it's a transaction, and you're getting the worst deal. Machiavelli's wisdom wasn't about being manipulative. It was about seeing manipulation clearly, about understanding how power actually works. Not how we wish it worked, not how it's supposed to work, but how it does work. In reality, Alex learned to think strategically, to observe people's patterns, their promises, to evaluate relationships by revealed preferences, not stated intentions, to trust behavior over words. First, Machiavellian principle. People are predictable. Study them, watch how they respond to no, observe what they do. When you're not useful, notice who stays. When you stop performing, you'll know exactly who they are, not who they claim to be, but who they actually are. Second principle, perception is reality. Manipulators control your perception of events, of yourself, of the relationship. They create narrative where you're always wrong, always inadequate, always in debt. Strategic awareness means questioning the narrative, asking whose story is this? Whose version of reality am I accepting? Why do I believe their interpretation over my own experience? Third principle, strategic silence. Machiavelli knew that talking too much, explaining too much, justifying too much gives manipulators material to work with, information to use it against you. Strategic silence means you don't explain boundaries, you just hold them. Don't defend your decisions, you just make them. Don't justify your needs, you just meet them. Fourth principle, read interests, not words. When someone says, I only want what's best for you, ask, what do they gain from this? When someone says you're being selfish, ask, who benefits from my compliance? When someone says you owe me, ask, what transaction did I agree to? That I don't remember. Manipulators rely on you taking words at face value. Machiavellian awareness looks beneath words to interests. Fifth principle, adapt or withdraw. You cannot change manipulators. You can only change how you respond. And if changing your response doesn't change the dynamic, then withdraw. Because staying in manipulative dynamic, trying to fix it, trying to make them see, try to earn their respect through better compliance, is strategic suicide. The only winning move is not to. Alex's transformation came with losses. Sarah stopped calling when Alex stopped being available on demand. Jordan ended the relationship when Alex maintained boundaries that required Jordan to manage their own emotions. Alex's mother gave the silent treatment when Alex stopped accommodating every family obligation. And each loss hurt, not because Alex had made wrong choice, but because loss always hurts. Even when it's necessary, even when it's freeing, even when it's choosing yourself over being used. But here's what Alex gained: self-respect that didn't require external validation, didn't depend on others' approval. Freedom that didn't come with strings attached. Relationships that remained were transformed. The ones built on genuine mutual respect, not on Alex's compliance. And new people entered Alex's life, drawn not to the performing self but to the authentic one. Because you stop being available to everyone, you become available to the right people. When you stop saying yes to everything, you can say yes to what actually matters. When you stop being controlled by others' reactions, you start living according to your own values. And this is the cost of freedom. Lose people who only loved your compliance. Disappointing people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. Being called selfish by people whose selfishness required your selflessness. Being called cold by people whose warmth depended on your burning yourself out. being called difficult by people who's required your difficulty. Most people won't pay this cost. They'll stay in manipulative dynamics, stay accommodating, stay sacrificing, stay being controlled because the cost of freedom seems higher than the cost of staying. But that's an illusion, because staying costs you yourself, costs you in small suffocating ways, costs you your peace, your authenticity, your mental health, your life force. Freedom costs you people who were using you. Staying costs you yourself. One is a clean cut that heals, one is slow bleeding that never stops. Alex chose the clean cut, chose freedom, chose and discovered that loneliness of integrity is infinitely better than the crowded prison of being everyone's pup. So here you are at the end of this journey, understanding now that manipulation isn't happening to you, it's happening through vulnerabilities you haven't protected, through patterns you haven't changed, through boundaries you haven't set, and the power to end it isn't in changing others, it's changing yourself. Alex isn't perfectly immune to manipulation. Nobody is, but Alex can now see it, recognize the tactics, feel the emotional hooks, notice when someone is trying to activate guilt or fear or obligation, and that seeing that recognition creates space for choice. Will I engage with this manipulation, or will I calmly decline to play? This is the only immunity that matters. Not invulnerability, but awareness. Not never being targeted, but never being controlled. Not never feeling the pull, but never following it blindly. You will still encounter manipulators. They're everywhere, in family, in workplaces, in relationships, in the world. But you're no longer an easy mark, no longer predictable, no longer controllable, because you've done the work, identified your weak points, built your boundaries, practiced your no's, developed your strategic awareness, and now when someone tries to manipulate you, it doesn't work. Not because you fight, not because you argue, not because you explain, but because you simply don't engage. You see the game and you don't play. You recognize the hook and you don't bite. You feel the pull and you don't follow, and manipulators move on. Because you're no longer worth the effort, no longer yielding the results, no longer playing your assigned role. And this calm sovereignty, this quiet refusal to be controlled, this clear-eyed awareness of dynamics and deliberate choice of how you engage. This is freedom, not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom to be who you actually are, without needing permission, without performing for approval, without sacrificing yourself for acceptance. Just you, solid, autonomous, sovereign, free. So the question isn't, will you encounter manipulation? The question is, will you recognize it? Will you have the courage to set boundaries? Will you be willing to lose people who only valued your compliance? Will you choose yourself? Comment below. What manipulation tactic did you finally recognize in your life? What was the moment you saw the strings? Share your awakening, because your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear, to recognize their own chains. And if this resonated, watch the next video, because this journey doesn't end. It deepens each insight, builds on the last. Each boundary strengthens the next. Each no makes the next one easier. You're not done, you're just beginning. And the truth doesn't just set you free, it transforms you completely. See you there.